Hello and welcome back to my humble show. I'm your host for today and every other day, the Articulate Thinker, hopefully. Here to bring you art articles and articulation straight from Articulation Station, where I'll be assessing the situation, so be sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it. If you like it, put a ring on it. My apologies if I sound more and more like RFK Jr. as time goes by. My voice has not been treating me well as of late. But don't hate. What say you? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and feel free to disagree with me as per always. I have a topic to tackle, and I must say I attempted to tackle it yesterday, but things just did not go my way, so I'm going to give it another go. Before I go into that, let me just say this. I recorded 2 shows last week, my first 2 shows in quite some time. The first of those 2 shows ended up with a couple thousand views and a couple hundred comments, which is quite a bit for me. And I am quite grateful, although most of them were in disagreement with what I had to say. Most of those comments were, that is, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. In fact, I encourage it. Iron sharpens iron, or something like that. But my point ultimately, in case you don't know, which you likely don't, Donald Trump should keep that same energy when it comes to debating Kamala Harris. You might remember that in regards to debating Joe Biden, he had said he would be willing to debate him anytime, anywhere, any place. Of course, after one debate in which Joe Biden was destroyed, largely due to self-destruction, he was switched out. He was swapped out. The keys were taken away from him and given to the teenager in the back seat. They decided that Grandpa could not handle driving anymore. So yeah, now Kamala Harris, tag team in it. And she's the new leader of the supposed dream team the Democrats have. And glowing coverage for the most part. She's in a bit of a political honeymoon right now. Will it wear off? We'll see. But yes, I said that it was bad PR for Donald Trump to backpedal. I say backpedal lightly because he's likely going to end up debating her in the end, as he should. I would like to see at least 2 debates. And no, they're unlikely to be hosted by Fox News, though Donald Trump would like that, which is fair. You know, when you have a Republican and a Democrat, it's fair to say that there should be a debate on a Republican network and on a Democrat network, but that's not how things work. Things are not really fair in politics. The incumbent, the most recent incumbent, has the advantage. You might say Kamala Harris isn't exactly the incumbent, since nobody voted for her per se, although she was on the ticket. She is the vice president currently. And although she is not yet officially the nominee, Joe Biden was not yet officially the nominee when Donald Trump agreed to debate him any time, anywhere, any place. So yes, when Donald Trump says, hold on, let me think about this, let me rewrite some rules and regulations, some terms and conditions, it sounds like he is indeed backpedaling. It sounds like he is more afraid of Kamala Harris than he was of Joe Biden, as he should be. He should be more afraid of her because, for one, she's alive. She's the fresh princess of hot air, as opposed to being the Captain Corpse, for lack of a better nickname. Although we could go with Sleepy Joe, which is less original. Yeah. And also, Donald Trump did not prepare to debate Kamala Harris. He should be prepared for anything, and if you hear his supporters, it would seem that at least they believe that he's born ready. He was born ready to debate anyone, and he will demolish her. Well, if that's the case, then he should. Anytime, anywhere, any place. The media has spun it. Mainstream media has spun it, as has Kamala Harris, which was to be expected, because when he goes from saying any time, anywhere, any place to saying, oh, whoa there, I don't know if I want to go there, That's a win for them. It just is. That's how this works. They may not be winning the war, but they're winning the battle. That particular battle. It's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things as long as they end up debating, because then he can say, what were you complaining about when I was going to debate anyways? But currently, as she has been out on the campaign trail saying, he's afraid of her. Yeah. Of course she's going to say that. Strategy. It's all about strategy. It's all about optics. And I'm just saying, if you're going to be objective at all, I don't know how you could disagree with what I'm saying. I'm just observing and reporting here. Doing my best. You can do the rest. Feel free to disagree with me. As I already said, let me know in the comments below what you think or what you know. But I'm going to go on with today's topic. Yesterday, Donald Trump attended an event in Chicago, an NABJ event, National Association of Black Journalists, of course, and things got spicy. Here is a headline from Bloomberg. Trump questions Harris's embrace of black identity at NABJ event. She happened to turn black, Republican nominee says. And then in response to Trump, Harris said that his comments showed divisiveness and disrespect. You know, because if you say that he's a threat to democracy and any number of other things, month after month after month after month after year after year after year after year, that's fine. But if he says, hey, it seems like she's a bit of a political chameleon, that's unacceptable. Whether or not it is, that's not what I'm focused on. I'm focused on strategy and optics. And I'm observing and reporting that he should not have said what he said. Now, I know if you're a devout, a sincere supporter of Donald Trump, you're likely going to disagree with me on this as well. And you're welcome to. You're welcome to do so. But I'm just letting you know what I've discovered in my research. Not that I'm any sophisticated researcher. Just doing my best to be an articulate thinker here. So I have one more article, one more quote to pull up here before I get on with the clips and content, and likewise the commentary. That's what I have planned for today. Here's a quote from a Daily Wire article. Vice President Harris reportedly asked conference organizers if she could attend via Zoom, but earlier this week, the organizers were informed that Harris would not be available in person or virtually during our convention, according to a statement from NABJ President Ken Lemon. The statement added that Lemon's team was in conversation with the Harris for President campaign team to schedule a Q&A session between Vice President Harris and NABJ, either in person or virtually, at some point in September. So, if I'm not mistaken, Trump was led to believe that Kamala Harris, would be there at some point, like within the time frame of him being there, and at least virtually. But now, you know, things have been set back even further because she couldn't handle the heat. So she got out of the kitchen. I guess good for her. Speaking of kitchens, I have a clip about a kitchen. A clip where Kamala Harris is in a kitchen, which I will be showing you momentarily as a side note. Didn't mean to distract myself there. But yes, just for your information, so we can have more details about the event which took place yesterday and will continue to take place, apparently. Moving on into the future, if I scroll up a bit here, you see Harris Faulkner. She was one of the reporters who questioned Donald Trump. Of course, she was the more friendly. Harris Faulkner says many in black journalist conference audience were glad Trump attended. From what I heard, there was a mixed response. There were some cheers, some jeers, some boos, some confusion. And that was partly due to technical difficulties. So things were running a bit late because of ABC's technical difficulties. And then, well, the next reporter I'm going to mention, she came in hot and heavy, swinging, giving it her best shot, going for Donald Trump's jugular. So I'm not going to play this clip, but Curtis Hook said, "Here's the full exchange on the insane first question at the NABJ convention by ABC's Rachel Scott." A black woman, as they all were. Fittingly enough. But yes, there's this clip of the first part of the interview, whatever you want to call it, where she's really going after him, not really asking him a question so much as making a statement, at least attempting to make a statement about how racist and evil Donald Trump is. Like, if you want to go after him on substance, I'm all for that. I think that's exactly what journalists should do, including those on the right wing of things. But I question the intentions. There was no good intent, and Trump pointed that out in response. As to be expected, he responded in kind, and said, "Hey, I came here with good intentions, and yet you open it up with a question like this after holding me up with your technical difficulties." And it only got spicier after that. So I want to focus on the more spicy portion, the part which he did not respond to quite as well, if you ask me. Clown World reposted this clip in which Donald Trump said, "I didn't know she was black until a couple of years ago. She happened to turn black." So Clown World says, mic drop. And I would disagree. It was not much of a mic drop, if you ask me. But here's the clip. You can decide for yourself.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
Give me
a definition then. Would you?
Yeah, the words which represent the acronym, not really a definition, ultimately. So, point to him there for asking her a question in response to her question, which was somewhat undefined. You know, when people throw these words at you like DEI, you're saying that Kamala Harris, or are you saying that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire? Oh, okay. So, are you saying that she wasn't? Like, doesn't the Biden administration specifically pride themselves in hiring based upon what they call diversity, equity, and inclusion? Okay, so why act outraged when we are calling it what you're literally saying it is? I mean, what they, as in the Biden administration, are saying it is. They say, we're going to not only hire you because of your sex and skin color, we're going to celebrate you because of it afterwards, and we're going to celebrate what we've done. And then you say, well, that right there is a DEI hire. And then liberal pundits, reporters, whatever you want to call them, they come at you and they say, oh, racist, evil. It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? So, fair enough. When you ask in response, what do you even mean by those words? And also, it would be even more fair, more fitting if Donald Trump had said in response, hey, I thought the Biden administration prided themselves in diversity and equity and inclusion. And if that's the case, then aren't you yourselves admitting that she was a DEI hire? As in Kamala Harris? Yes, she was, obviously. I don't know that we should be beating that horse until it's dead and then beating that dead horse until it's even deader, which is, logically impossible. But you get my point. But yes, Kamala Harris was obviously a DEI hire, and I know I'm interrupting the clip here, the contentious clip from the contentious conversation, from the contentious convention, but I just have to say, I did upload a 20-plus minute long compilation of clips on my Articulate Thinker News Clips channel, spelling out exactly how much of a DEI hire Kamala Harris was, because, in the beginning, she was running against him. Kamala Harris was running against Joe Biden. She was so unpopular that she had to drop out of the race before she even received a single vote in the primaries. That's just what happened. And then Joe Biden said, shortly after that he couldn't say whether or not he would pick a woman, much less a black woman, to be his vice president. He suggested that it would be unethical to do so. He said, you cannot know. He said he could not know whether or not that's what he would do. And then shortly after that, he announced in a debate against Bernie Sanders, hey, guess what, everybody? I'm going to be choosing a woman, specifically a woman, to be my vice president. And of course, after that, partly because of the racial reckoning that was happening in the country at the time, in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd, St. George Floyd, no offense to him, well, all of the black pundits and reporters were going after Joe Biden anytime he went on a news network to be interviewed. They would say, it's not enough for you to pick just any woman to be your vice president. It's not enough for you to choose just any woman. You have to choose a black woman. And then on top of all of that, Jim Clyburn, he said the same thing. You have to pick a black woman. You have to choose her. Don't get it confused. Choose a black woman. And to this day, Joe Biden, in part, credits his win to Jim Clyburn. So, obviously, he was pressured in to choosing a black woman, precisely because she was a black woman. And although they can't really tell you what a woman is, they can definitely tell you what a black person is. Interesting how that works in terms of identifying factors, biological characteristics. But I digress. That's the story of how Kamala Harris was hired as a DEI vice president, and ultimately ended up on the ticket as the presumptive nominee for the Democrats in the upcoming presidential election. Yeah, but now you got to be really careful what you say, and Donald Trump was not. So let me continue playing this clip after my extensive ranting.
Give me a definition of that. Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that she is...
I think somebody should look into that, too, when you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
Mixed emotions coming from the crowd there, the peanut gallery, the nut gallery. Even more so from the interviewers there. As the interviewee, Donald Trump could have done better. In that moment, he could have. Oh, something I wanted to point out was that similar to how Kamala Harris is mixed race, Barack Obama was mixed race. He is mixed race. So she's no less black than him, really, if you think about it. But yet, there wasn't really the suggestion that she, or that he, wasn't actually black. In fact, the question was asked in the opposite direction, to the point of conspiracy theories when the whole birther thing started up. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump was was responsible for that entire conspiracy theory, or that conspiracy theory in its entirety. After all, Hillary Clinton, even, if I'm not mistaken, suggested at some point early on that, Barack Obama wasn't exactly who he was saying that he was. But with all that being said, I'm just pointing out the interesting irony that, from Barack Obama to Kamala Harris, Donald Trump's talking point has changed quite a bit. Now, if he wants to say that she's a chameleon who panders and therefore has presented herself as different ethnicities at different points in time, well, let's get into that, shall we? And then I'll put some stone in my foundation here, so we're just not sitting on a bed of sand. And then I'll be able to explain thoroughly why he shouldn't have said what he said, at least not in the way that he said it. And no, I'm not denying that the Democrats, especially Kamala Harris at this point, have been pandering for quite some time. But, there's more to a life than convenient talking points. So, scrolling down a little bit, someone by the name of Jay Stewart says, here's Kamala Harris talking about being the first Indian senator in U.S. history. 5-second clip here. Here you go.
Certainly, you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Knock wood.
So she said there, knock wood. It sounds like she said not good, which would be more fitting. But hey. Yeah. She was asked a question, and she answered in the way that you would expect. So I said, in response to that, technically she was just responding to a question about it. Do you have a clip of her talking about her Indian heritage without a prompt? In other words, it's one thing to answer questions. It's another thing to go out on a stage or something, presenting yourself as this historically black individual. In her case, right now, she is running to be the first black female president, immediately after being the first black female vice president. So that's why that side of her demographics is being covered extensively. This is how it works. When she was running for senator, she was running to be the first Indian senator. That's what was highlighted at the time. She was not going to be the first black senator. Therefore, the talking point was, oh, first Indian senator, woohoo! Doesn't mean that she was denying her, I guess you'd say, African American or Jamaican heritage, black heritage, if you will. It just means that something different was being focused on, because identity politics, pandering, that and then some. But this is not news. This is just how things work in politics. Doesn't mean that she was somehow denying that she was black or that people didn't believe she was black. So, breaking this down even further, let me share some posts on X and then my responses to those posts. Amuse said, flashback, Kamala Harris was the first Indian senator in American history. And the first Indian senator in American history part is quotations there because that's what was being reported at the time, because it was true. But two things can be true at once when you're mixed race, just as Barack Obama was. Though, of course, no one was celebrating him as the first half-white president, because every president up until him had been white. So, it was first black president. That's what received all the coverage. Fact check, Kamala Harris was an Indian politician before she was a black politician. Wait, so you're saying she has to pick? Come on. Here's a meme followed up by Amuse here. This meme depicts Kamala Harris, 2019, being an Indian and then fading into a bush, backing into a bush, and then re-emerging in 2024 as a black woman. if I'm not mistaken, she has always been seen as a black woman and an Indian woman by people who realized that she was mixed race, at least. And both of those two things have been celebrated because she has double whammy minority status. Some might say triple because of her ancestors, where they came from, the coverage of territory in terms of her being an Asian. All right, so Benny Johnson posts a clip of her in the kitchen, as I already mentioned. He says, "Please do not watch this. Do not. No, don't you dare. Do not share this." Of course, he's demanding that you share it, as he tends to do. And so I'm going to share it with you.
Okay, so what we're going to cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you are Indian.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that. But I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about to have you running for president.
Okay, so as you can hear, this was when she was running for president. And at the time, she was still, at least in this clip, referring to herself or being referred to as an Indian American. Which she is. Literally. But yeah, I'm going to play the rest of this, but let me say that if I'm having technical difficulties and some buffering issues, my apologies. A little bit of lag in the system.
So we're both Indian,
Yes.
but actually we're both South Indian.
Yes. You look like the entire one half of my family.
Okay, thank you.
You do.
I've been telling people
You
we're
do.
related already,
Yeah.
so this is perfect. It's basically true. And so were you raised eating South Indian food?
South Indian food.
Okay, so what we're going to cook today?
Yeah, what you're going to cook today. We get it. So let me share my response to Benny Johnson. I said, to be fair, in the dialogue of this clip, it's pointed out that it wasn't necessarily even common knowledge that Kamala Harris is Indian, meaning she has always been thought of as being black, which seems to dispute Donald Trump's suggestion that everyone thought she was Indian. Why are we acting like we just learned what it means to be mixed race? Is she supposed to only pick one ethnicity to represent or something? By the way, I can't stand her, so I'm not exactly supporting her, in case you haven't noticed by now. And, I kind of suggested there that she was thought of primarily as a black woman already, and that they felt the need to produce this content to highlight the fact that, though you might not know it, though many people don't know it, she is, in fact, part Indian. On her mother's side. Now, it may not be accurate to say that people primarily thought of her as black at that time, or at least back around the time when she was becoming a senator, since that's not what was being highlighted at the time. Maybe she was. I don't mean to get caught up in revisionist history here. It could have been that she was primarily thought of as an Indian, since that's what was being highlighted. But regardless, they still felt the need to put this out to highlight, maybe to pander, to point out that, she reaches out to Indian Americans because she's one of them. She checks a lot of boxes, and so therefore it's possible that she's going to reach, through the media, a lot of people. So don't underestimate her, especially when so many of those boxes she checks are Trump's vulnerabilities, his weak points, which is why he's constantly called a racist, a misogynist, so on and so forth. All right, so if you want to watch that clip, it's from 4 years ago. It's on Kamala Harris's account, actually. Kamala Harris and Mindy Kaling cook masala dosa. I'm not going to play that. I have some more clips to play, though. But first, let me run through this. Let me read through this from Owen Gregorian. He said, flashback. California's Kamala Harris becomes first Indian American U.S. Senator, according to the Associated Press. So this is an old article from the Associated Press, screenshot there below. But he adds, Trump said today that Kamala Harris used to identify as an Indian American and later pivoted to identify as black. He says, fact check true. So we're into fact-checking now. So I'm not going to read all of this text in this screenshot from this article, but just because you go back in time and find one article which is specifically highlighting her Indian heritage because of her first status, her first Indian American senator status at that time, that doesn't mean that she wasn't also known as a black woman. Duh. Okay. Not trying to go out of my way to defend her here, but, really doing my due diligence here so I don't get caught up making stupid arguments like Donald Trump tends to do. He tends to step on every rake within reach, which may be better than tripping on every rake as Joe Biden did, but hey, it's not that much better in the grand scheme of things. All right, so I said, could it be that her Indian heritage was singularly mentioned as a first because she wasn't the first black senator? I mean, she is a mixed race person after all, and therefore qualifies for various firsts, as I've already explained. Moving on. Another tab here. In fact, this is part of a thread. Someone by the name of Dr. Shea posted this meme, if you will. On the one side, it has the article which I just showed you, a screenshot of it from 2016. Headline reading, California's Kamala Harris becomes first Indian American U.S. Senator. Then on the right-hand side, you see another article from Associated Press. Same publication. Different headline reading, Biden picks Kamala Harris as running mate, first black woman. This was published in 2020. So both of these things were true. Both of those things were and are true. So neither one is a lie. And if you want to say that she's pandering in both cases to different races, okay. But what did you expect? And it hasn't really been her who has been pushing these narratives. It has been the media doing it for her. Because anytime she runs for something, because she automatically checks certain boxes, they say, look at the boxes she's checking. Let's celebrate her as such. Historical figure that she is. Okay. What do you want to get into the book of Guinness? The Guinness World Book of Records? Whatever you call it. Hold on, let me pause this really fast. My cat is in the room and wants out. All right, the cat has left the building. Well, the room. Yes, I'm a childless cat man. Shout out to JD Vance. No, I don't think that's all that offensive, but I can see how it could be to some. That's a whole different story. Don't get me started. Okay, so in response to the good doctor here, Dr. Shea, if I didn't mention it already, I said, aren't both of those statements literally true, though? I mean, are you suggesting that she's one, both, or neither? In regards to those headlines and those articles from the Associated Press. So, Dr. Shea responded to me saying, that's not the issue. The issue is, even if she is black, all along she never identified as black. She only identifies as black now that she wants the black vote. Wait. Was she, denying that she was black back in the day? I don't think so. And I don't think anyone can prove that, which is why I do my research around here. Okay, so I said, I guess I'm just confused about when she wasn't known as black. I have the understanding, although her Indian heritage was specifically highlighted, namely by the media, back when she became the first Indian senator, that never meant she wasn't also known as a black woman. Here's an old article to back up what I'm saying. I'm no fan of Kamala Harris, but I'm not sure that this reverse birther style criticism of her is going to pay off in the long or short term. And I've received no responses so far, so I'll take that to mean that I'm right. But yeah, rather than showing you these screenshots of yet another article with the Associated Press attached to it as well, go figure, I'll just pull up the article. So this is from KBPS, but it also has the Associated Press referenced as co-publication. It was published more than 7 years ago. Headline reads, Kamala Harris sworn in to U.S. Senate. There's a photo of her being sworn in by, you guessed it, Joe Biden, vice president at the time. And this is a little side note, because these things matter to me. The caption under this image says, Vice President Joe Biden swears in Senator Kamala Harris, Democrat from California, while her husband, Doug Emhoff, holds a long-kept family Bible as of January 3 of 2021. The problem is that date is wrong. Not from January 3 of 2021. Keep in mind this article is 7 years old, and January 2021 was a time in which Kamala Harris had graduated from being a senator to being the vice president, due to her being a DEI hire. Fact check on this article. Can't vouch for the credibility of everything else it is saying at this point, but, just to read a little bit of it, it said here, Governor Brown nominates Representative Xavier Becerra to replace Harris as a state attorney general, yada, 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 bing, bing, boom. Forget I read that. Here we go. Former California Attorney General Kamala Harris was sworn in as the first Indian American senator Tuesday. She is also the first black woman to represent California in the U.S. Senate. So even 7 years ago, she was referred to as a black woman. So all these Trump supporters who are pretending otherwise, they're barking up the wrong tree. And I know that text is tiny. I'll pull it up in the screenshot I did take so you can read it for yourself there. Look at that. 7 years ago, she was entering the Senate as the first Indian American senator and first black woman to represent California in the U.S. Senate. So there we go. Checking all the boxes there. Doing my due diligence here. On to the next tab. I might play some of this. Indian American members of Congress sworn in. Kamala Harris is included in this. Just for a bit of historical context here. This is from, you guessed it, the Associated Press Archive channel. You'll see Kamala Harris in a moment, wearing the shirt you could see her wearing in this image here. And you can see that this video was uploaded to this channel in 2017, 7 years ago indeed, which is how I know that date on the caption under that photo was wrong. Okay, it's kind of hard to hear him. I don't want to turn the volume up and replay it. I'll just say what he said. He said that Doug Emhoff married way up, so I guess he was a fan of Kamala Harris at the time until she tried to roast him in their debate. And then ultimately she got roasted by Tulsi Gabbard, dropped out due to her lack of popularity, and they've been pals ever since, supposedly, since he chose her to be his VP. And they lived happily ever after. Well, she is currently living happily. Joe Biden, not so much, since they took the keys away from Grandpa. But yeah, I don't need to play the rest of that. Just the formalities of the swearing in. Hold on a second. Need to pause this again. Never mind. I'm back. I had to pause to see if someone was here. It sounded like someone was here, but it's just my wife watching TV in the other room. I believe. She said she might be expecting company, so if that's the case, I'll have to pause this again. Moving on. I'm 40 minutes into this show. I don't want to keep this going too long, but I do have some more interesting context to show you, to share with you here. Okay, so going back a little further, 2013 Women in Power Annual Luncheon, where California State Attorney General Kamala Harris spoke. So, the talking points she uses to this day, the unburdened by what has been talking point and the I eat no for breakfast talking point. Well, she has been using those talking points for a long time. I think they've grown a little bit old, a little bit cringy. She needs to come up with some new talking points. But here you go. I'm going to play this. See if you recognize any of the language she was using back then. Might take it a moment to actually play. Had this tab sitting for a while.
And I will say to each one of you, when you have that experience, you must also say no. You must understand and know that when you have the thoughts that you do about the way the world works, when you have the thoughts that you do and the feelings and emotions that come with that, about what can be, unburdened by what has been, that even if you're not surrounded by a large group of people that can see or hear or understand what you're saying, push on through and don't listen to no.
So the video is frozen, the audio is still playing though. But notice within 1 minute she used both of those talking points I mentioned. The no talking point, don't hear no, don't see no, eat no for breakfast. She didn't go quite that far in this case. But that, and then the unburdened by what has been talking point. So she'll use at least one of those a couple more times. I'll play a little bit more, 1.5 times speed to get through this.
Part of my experience and probably approach to this is the fact that my mother, who raised my sister and me, was predominantly raised my sister and me, my mother was a scientist. And her specialty was, in fact, breast cancer research. My mother had 2 goals in her life. 2 goals: to raise her 2 daughters to be productive and to end breast cancer. And part of what my mother would do is she would take us to work with her on weekends, which meant going to the lab. And there she was, and she was completely focused on knowing that we can make advances on something like breast cancer, and we must be unburdened by what has been.
Oh, there you go.
She understood, like I know all of you do, because this is why you're here. She understood the power of an individual to be focused on knowing there can be solutions, and doing that without any burden, without feeling any weight of thinking that we must blindly adhere to tradition and accept things the way they are. It is the work of knowing that we each as individuals can make a difference, and then working toward that, knowing what can be, unburdened by what has been.
Okay. So I played a couple of minutes worth there, and within those couple of minutes she used the same talking point 3 times. 3 times. And that's 11 years ago. 11 years ago, the talking point that she now uses to this day in every speech, nearly every speech, she was using multiple times within one speech. So, not exactly an original thinker, if you ask me. Hey, maybe she's not plagiarizing famous authors like Joe Biden was back in his first presidential run, but she needs some new talking points. She really does. Bit of a word salad there at the end. She also gets hung up on the word work in so many cases. She just repeats it in various iterations of the word work, various derivatives of the word work. She goes on and on and on about it. We are working together on working together about working together. Yeah, that sort of thing. Bit of a circular talker, I'm guessing, because she's lacking substance. That's for you to decide. With all that being said, I'm still going to call it like it is and say this is all proof, and you'll see even more so momentarily, that Donald Trump was inaccurate in his latest talking point, that she suddenly became black just recently, or whatever he was saying. Okay, so here's a brief 42-second long news clip of her back when she was, again, becoming the first Indian American U.S. Senator.
California's Kamala Harris is the first Indian American U.S. Senator. The state attorney general took on another Democrat, Loretta Sanchez, for the seat. It was the first time a Republican wasn't on California's general election ballot in more than a century. Though her win is historic, it's not really a surprise. Polls showed Harris leading by double digits heading into Election Day. And she received more than 40% of the vote in California's primary. Harris is a rising star in the party. Her name came up both as a possible VP pick for Hillary Clinton and as a potential successor to Antonin Scalia on the Supreme Court. For Newsy, I'm Eugene Daniels.
All right. So, you probably don't remember at this point, but at the beginning of this show, so long ago, when I was playing the clip of Donald Trump questioning her claims to ethnicity. He said something about knowing her for quite some time, although not directly. Well, let me see here. I have the Senate debate from 2016 pulled up when she was running against this other Democrat who somehow managed to be even less likable than Kamala Harris, which is part of the reason why Kamala Harris won that race, though she hasn't really been thoroughly battle-tested, if you ask me. Yeah, in this debate, there's a clip about a relationship, an indirect relationship between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. You'll see what I mean. Check this out.
I will also suggest this. Part of what our students deserve, and I've put a plan in place that we've called Freedom to Learn. I believe, and I will fight for the right for students to have free community college, and if your household family income is $140,000 or less, you get free college and university. It's just the right thing to do.
Wait for it.
Providing our students with an education is the pathway to a dream, and if we let them be in debt, it'll be our deficit. We'll pay for it.
Ms. Sanchez, 30 seconds.
We're already providing free education, free tuition at the community college. But let me talk a little about this for-profit, because my opponent is disingenuous.
Ooh.
For example, yes, she went after some colleges after others had gone and already done the paperwork and the hard work for her. But more importantly, Trump University. The most people that got swindled were Californians. She was taking his money in her campaigns to fly around in first-class airfare and first-class hotels and taking Trump's money.
Your time is expired.
And
your
also,
time is expired. Your time is
her
expired.
socialite friend in San
Okay.
for her. But more importantly, Trump University. The most people that got swindled were Californians. She was taking his money in her campaigns to fly around in first-class airfare and first-class hotels and taking Trump's money.
Your time is expired.
And
your
also,
time is expired. Your time is
her
expired.
socialite friend in San Francisco.
Your time is expired. Rafe. Hi there. Your question.
Hi, are you...
Okay, so hopefully you caught all of that. I had some technical difficulties of my own. But yeah, it is true that Donald Trump actually donated money to Kamala Harris back in the day. And she took it. And so that's what the other woman on the stage there was talking about. And she talked about it too much. I mean, she talked about everything too much. Every time her time was up, she would continue talking. And I think it rubbed everyone the wrong way. At least in me rewatching this, she rubbed me the wrong way. I last night put this on 2x speed and watched the whole hour-long debate. I kid you not. Just to get a little bit more context on Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton? Why did I say Hillary Clinton? Why did I say Hillary Clinton? Kamala Harris. Whoops. Oh, man. But yeah. Okay, I played 5 seconds of this clip earlier in the show. I'm going to play a little bit more of it. This is where Kamala Harris was being interviewed, and she was asked about trying to be the first Indian American U.S. Senator, and she said, knock on wood. Easily interpreted as not good.
What, if anything, is the Democratic Party trying to do to get South Asians involved in this party? Yeah, well, the Democratic Party for a very long time, not just this election cycle, has been doing a lot of active outreach around South Asians, around the API in general, and will continue to do it. I mean, what we know in particular when you're talking about the South Asian community, we're talking about the Indian community more specifically, it is a growing community in the United States in terms of its voting bloc, in terms of its participation, and I think the party knows that and knows that this is part of our collective community, and there needs to be outreach and inclusion. And certainly you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment. Knock wood.
Okay, so all she said was knock wood and then laughed, which she tends to do. So she didn't really get into, her Indian heritage per se, other than addressing or answering questions about it. And the definitive attempts by Democrats, the indefinite attempts by Democrats to appeal to minorities, to pander to minorities, which they've been doing for years and years and years. We should not be surprised when they do that for any particular group, for the votes of any particular group, I should say. Okay, moving on. And my clips continue to freeze momentarily. And here is a clip from 2017, shortly after she became the senator. And in this clip, you will notice that she is referring to herself as black, because it's not a new phenomenon. And this is where certain Republicans, Trump supporters, are getting it wrong. Wait for it.
And so I was there for 2 terms, and then I thought that a lot of the work that we were doing around criminal justice reform and some of the work we were doing focusing on...
Notice how she's already used the word work twice. Every time she gives a speech. Work, 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 work.
Women and girls and children that we could take statewide. So I decided in 2010 to run for Attorney General of California. So I'll now share with you that story. So I heard the same doubts. I heard the same points that were made that last time. Not your turn. Nobody like you has done this before. It's going to be really hard work. I also heard, and you're from San Francisco, you're a woman of color.
Oh, woman of color?
Personally opposed to the death penalty, who wants to be the top cop of the biggest state in the country. Ain't gonna happen, they said.
And by the way, she ran into a bit of trouble over her stance on the death penalty as well. That's another story for another day.
And I didn't listen. And, sometimes I say, I like to eat no for breakfast. It's just, I did not listen.
Of course. To this day, eating no for breakfast. That explains a lot.
And they said it'll never happen, and of course they were wrong. But I will also tell you that on election night, my opponent actually declared his victory. And so it was a process of counting votes for many, many days. But as elected, as the Attorney General of California, I was elected again as the first woman Attorney General of California, first person of color. And all of that leads me then to where I stand today before you.
And notice how she's saying woman of color. That could mean a number of things. But she does get more specific. It does get more specific.
As a member of the United States Senate, and only the second African-American woman to have been elected to the United States Senate, and the first...
Okay, enough of that. I just wanted to point out the fact that she was, even back then, referring to herself as African-American. Yeah. So there you have it. Bad talking point by Team Trump. Bad talking point. Even if other people don't pick on it or pick up on it like I am, it's still bad because it's inaccurate. I like to be factual. All right, so on to the next. I'm not going to play this. It's a clip of her talking about how minors need to be able to go in for abortions without their parents knowing. Yeah, another controversial conversation. She has a lot of stances which are extremely radical. I just wanted to pull this up to show you that it's another clip, another event, courtesy of the Human Rights Campaign, Human Wrongs Campaigns, more like it, from 2017, and the caption of it reads, "She is also the second African-American woman in history to be elected to the United States Senate." Yep. So all of these references throughout the course of the last few years referring to her as not just an Indian woman but a black woman. So the memes suggesting that she just suddenly became black or suddenly began referring to herself as black are inaccurate. It's old news. Catch up, people. I'm definitely not going to play this. She went on The Breakfast Club a couple of times for interviews one 33 minutes long. Well, approximately 34 minutes long. The other one, approximately 48 minutes long. We've seen some clips of that going around, of those interviews going around, where she's, for example, talking about how she smoked marijuana, after throwing people in jail for smoking marijuana. Well, I don't know which came first, to be honest, but, Tulsi Gabbard let her know about that. Also, she said in one of these interviews that she was on board with reparations. Yeah, she did. So if you want to hear her stances on some things, some of those stances being stupid stances, well, check out those interviews from 5 years ago. Let me play a couple more things before I wrap the show up. Hopefully before I get an hour into things. All right, Harris's dad slams his daughter's use of identity politics. And this will actually present some more context from those aforementioned interviews from the Breakfast Club. So, without further ado, I give you...
There's a family feud on the Democrat side.
Oh, gosh. Do you remember when Kamala Harris, she had that radio interview with Breakfast Club? It was released. We talked about it. She admitted that she smoked pot. When they asked her if she was pro-legalizing marijuana, she said, "Of course I smoked marijuana. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?" Well, her own father had a problem with that. But listen to what she said on the Breakfast Club.
They say you oppose legalizing weed.
That's not true.
I know.
and look, I joke about it, half joking. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay.
And I inhale. I did inhale.
Okay. It's really hysterical for the former attorney general of that state to talk about doing something illegal, laughing about it, giggling about it, and trying to get some traction for it. Among the people that were upset by it, her dad, Donald Harris, from Jamaica, an economics professor at Stanford University, says this: "My dear departed grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with the fraudulent stereotype of pot-smoking, joy-seeking, and in pursuit of identity politics."
Oof.
Man, what a blast at his daughter who wants to be the next president.
No kidding.
Woohoo, she got roasted by her own dad. Roasted like a blunt. Yeah. So Fox News was talking about this all the way back in 2019. I had forgotten about it until I started digging. Got to dig to find some buried treasures here. Yeah, I'll play a little bit more of this.
He added, and he had sent this statement to Jamaica Global Online. He said, "Speaking for myself and my immediate Jamaican family, we wish to categorically disassociate ourselves from this travesty." The campaign had no comment as of yesterday. It should be pointed out that Kamala Harris's parents divorced when she was younger, and her mother raised her and her sister.
But her father still had a big part of her life, according to reports.
Today she'll be with Al Sharpton in New York City.
Anyways, it is true that her parents split up when she was young. She was raised in large part by her mom. She spent some time in Canada. Didn't exactly suffer compared to many people. Not saying she had everything she could have ever wanted, but she did have some stuff. Attended Howard University, which HBCU, kind of goes to show that she was into being black a long time ago, and that may have been mentioned in response to what Trump said in that clip, all the way back at the beginning of the show when the contentious convention got underway. I believe it was mentioned, but I forgot to follow up on that and say, yeah, she went to HBCU. She has been self-identifying as black for years and years and years. At least she has been agreeing with the reports that she's black, because she'll take any self-celebration that she can get. She'll check as many boxes as possible, because that's, interestingly enough, how she has made it so far. Yeah. And if she makes it into the White House, well, she's already in the White House, but if she makes it into the White House as the president, it will be because of those factors. Obviously. So don't underestimate her. I feel like I said don't overestimate her earlier. Don't do that either. Just be prepared. And debate her. Anytime, anywhere, any place. If you're up for the challenge. That's my challenge to Trump. Okay, lastly, this is just a random video by this account on YouTube, the Trailblazers with Tamara McHale, something like that. Not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. If you want to know more about Donald Harris.
So with that, here are 10 things about Kamala Harris's father. Number 1, Kamala Harris's father, Donald Harris, was born in Orange Hill near Brownstown in the North Coast parish of St. Anne in Jamaica. He was born on August 23, 1938 to parents.
And you know what? I'll just leave it there. I'll pause it on this image. If you can see it on the screen there. The father of Kamala Harris, cackling Kamala Harris. Yeah, the non-Asian side of her family. And so, yeah, it is what it is. She is what she is. She's going to run with it, as to be expected. I just wanted to cover everything to the best of my ability so everyone would have a full picture of things, full context of things, so they're not making any inaccurate claims. If you've made it this far, you are a real trooper. I applaud you. Again, you can look up that video for yourself on the Trailblazers with Tamara McHale YouTube channel. She has a 5-minute long video about Donald Harris. She uploaded it just a few days ago. Yeah, and that's that. And this is me signing out. See you later. Sayonara. Gotta go. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Keep in touch. Keep in tune. New content is coming soon. Peace.